Hi, I'm Cody, a software engineer here in San Francisco, and in this video series, we're rebuilding Lovable using LangGraph. In the last video, we updated our chatbot so that when we send the message in and it hits OpenAI's API, we have the response written directly to the file system so that we can just simply refresh the page and see all of the source code and see it rendered on the actual page. Now, the problem we were running into is that we don't have any type of system prompt that tells a large language model what it's doing. So if we were to send in a naive message like, change this game to be a white background instead of, dark background, then the LLM would not actually know what you're talking about. It wouldn't know what game you're talking about. It wouldn't know that it needs to respond with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It just has no context. And so to give it that context, we need to set up a system prompt that we can wrap the user's message in so that the large language model understands what we're talking about. And here's an example right here. The response that it gave us is it's talking about Python, right? Like it just has no idea what we're talking about. All it knows is that we're talking about a game. We want to change the background. It's talking a little about HTML, CSS, but I don't know why it has this Python code in there. It just doesn't know. It gets confused, and this is a source of errors, and maybe some version of a hallucination where you have to ground the large language model by having a system prompt that explains what we're actually trying to do. So let's go ahead and refresh this page. We can just kind of see the background. So to do that, we're going to use Langsmith's library, and we already have a prompt that we started to create in our very first video, just telling it you are a chatbot that builds full HTML pages. Please take the user's message and turn it into a fully formatted HTML document. Here's the user message. Now, if we were to take that exact same prompt that we had sent in to the agent, then we would, if we were to test that, we could say, please turn this game's background color to white instead of dark, right? And we send this in. It's still missing some of the context. It doesn't understand, what game we're working on, but it will still get us much closer because it will actually return just a clear, full HTML page, an HTML document, as opposed to, it just having no idea what we're talking about. And so to pull this prompt into our code, we're actually going to use the Langsmith API. And to do that, we're going to go ahead and make sure that this prompt is saved, commit any changes that you have. And then in here, you can see that there's this breadcrumb with prompts and then this simple generate HTML prompts. Go and just click on that. And then this actually gives us the code that we need using the Python SDK. We can just click on copy here. Let's go back into our cursor project. Let's open up our Python file. Let's come up here to the top. Let's paste in our Langsmith things that we need. And then one thing that we do need to get is we need to get our Langsmith API key. So let's go ahead and pull that up. To find that, you're going to go ahead and jump into Langsmith. You're going to go down to your settings cog here. Then you're going to go on API keys. And then here you can create a new API key. I'm going to go ahead and just create one. Give it a name describing what you're doing. And then click create, and then it will give you a API key. You can copy it out, and then we're going to go into our .env file. I'm not going to open up my .env file, but you would open up your .env file in your project, and you would paste in the Langsmith API key, and you'd make sure that it has this specific key in there. If you check the repository that I'm going to post in these videos, we'll actually have a .env example that you can use as a starting point. Okay, so we've got this added in, and here you see we initiate our client and our prompt. I'm going to move this code down just a little bit closer just to keep things organized. I'm going to bring my client right here, and then I'm going to pull my prompt, and I'm actually going to pull it in only when we make the actual client call. So you see in here we have our LLM client. I'm actually going to call prompt equals client.pullPrompt. I'm going to remove this include model. We don't have to include the model in that. And then we're going to need to format the prompt with the user message so that it matches what we have in our actual prompt variable. So let's go back to our prompt library, go to smith.langchain.com. We'll go to our prompts here. We'll click on our prompt that we've been working on. You see here that we have this variable user message that we need to basically invoke. And so let's go ahead and to do that, you're going to call prompt.invoke. Go prompt.invoke, but we're actually going to, let's go ahead and save this in a different variable. So we're going to say prompt value equals prompt.invoke, and then we're going to format it with a little JSON object where we label the variable name, and then we're going to pass in the user message to the prompt, so that we can have multiple variables in our prompts in the future. Let's go and test this and see that this works. So let's save this. Let's go back to Chrome and let's open up our application here. Let's go ahead and refresh this page. Okay, and from here, rather than saying this, let's just go ahead and say, please, let's say, please change this page so it has a dark background instead of a white background. Okay, let's go and send this in. Okay, if we look here, its response is that, oh, see, it's still a little confused. It knows a little bit more that it wants to. Okay, so it seems to have a little bit more context. One thing though one thing we forgot to do is we forgot to format the content with the prompt value. So this isn't, the perfect way to do that, because this is actually, as far as the LangChain library, we're passing this in as a human message, which, is kind of a mix of a system message and a human message. But for the sake of just making progress, we're going to go ahead and just pass in this prompt value. We're going to also go ahead and just log the, let's go ahead and say prompt. Yeah, we'll just say prompt we're sending to the LLM. So we're, kind of creating this in real time, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and jump back to our code here. Let's refresh this. I'm actually going to restart the server. Okay, let's go back into here. I'm going to paste in that message again. Please change this page so it has a dark background. So let's change this now so it has a white background instead of a dark background. Let's go ahead and send this in. Oh, it's not happy. Let's take a look. Oh, in fact, in this case, we can actually change this so it's not wrapped with a human message. We actually just pass in the prompt value here. Okay, let's try that. Okay, let's refresh this page. Let's send that same message in. Okay, let's come over here to our project. Okay, and look at this. We can see that we have prompt we're sending to the LLM. And look at this. Now it responds with the fully formatted doc type. And so it doesn't add any commentary. It's like a much, it's much closer to what we want. Let's refresh this. And now look, now when we send it in that way, the large language model understands the full context of what we're doing. We need it to understand that we want it to respond with a document HTML page. There's obviously some things we could do to make it a little bit better, such as telling it very clearly not to add any additional commentary, because its response is going to be written to the file system. Another thing we could do is we could, let's just test some things here. Let's say, please change the, the content on this page to be, we'll say, please change the header on this page to say, hello world, but keep everything else on the page the same. Okay, let's go ahead and send this in. Let's double check here and see our prompt. So this is the prompt we're sending in directly to the large language model. You are a chatbot that builds full HTML pages. Please take the user message and turn it into a fully formatted HTML document. Here's the user's message. And then here we have the human message. Please change header on this page to say hello world, but keep everything else on the same. Okay. Now if you look at this, let's just double check, make sure the footer right here says 2024 your company. Okay. Let's go ahead and refresh this page. And now look at this. It did not keep the original content. And the other thing too is there's something off about this HTML page, right? If we come in here, it had posted this, created this, and it's in our, it's in our logs, but there's something off about this prompt. And the problem is, if you look at it, the large language model, remember, this is the only thing that it sees. It only sees, you are a chatbot that builds full HTML pages. Here's the user's message. Now here's the human message. And so what we actually need to do is we need to tell the large language model what the existing page content is. And so to do that, we're actually going to add another variable into our prompt so that we can show the LLM the current page that it's looking at. So to do that, let's go back into our Langsmith playground. Let's click Edit in Playground. And we're going to say, here's the existing HTML document content, okay? Or I'll say, we will include the existing HTML document content and the user message. In fact, we'll just do it like this, which is here, okay? And I'm going to format this and say, existing HTML content, and here is the user's message. Okay. Let's format this just a little bit nicer. Here is the user's message. Okay, and then we just format that there. Cool. And so now we have two variables. Let's go ahead and commit this. And what's nice is once it's committed, then it already, every time you run the agent, it will automatically, when you run the Python code, it will automatically pull that updated prompt in. Now we need to go ahead and add an additional variable here. So we need to have, this will say, what was it, existing HTML content. And then what we need to do is we actually need to pull the page information out into a string of HTML so that we can feed that into the large language model. To do that, I'm just going to tell Cursor to go ahead and implement that for me. Oh, in fact, look at this. It's thinking ahead, and it kind of knew that's what I wanted. Okay, cool. So I just hit tab, tab. That's one of the cool things about Cursor. And you can see that it's going to open this page.html. It's going to read the existing HTML content. And if it can't find it, it will just format it as empty. Let's go ahead and see if that works. Let's scroll down. No errors on Fast API. Let's open up our app. Let's refresh it. And we'll say, please keep the content of this page the exact same, but make the background white and add colors to the font types. Okay, let's go back into this. And if you see here, oh, there's an error here. It didn't read the file from the page, it didn't read the page.html file. Let's go ahead and actually kill the LangGraph, the Fast API server, and let's try it one more time. I'm going to refresh this. I'm going to say, can you please turn this into and if you see this, the LLM response got written directly into the page.html, which is a problem that we'll fix in future videos. Let's ask it to, can you please turn this into an HTML page with some good color and HTML elements. Okay, let's go ahead and send this in. Let's see if it passes the content along. Oh no, it's not. So there's an error here in our code. So let's go ahead and let's get into debugging mode. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set a breakpoint before and after we try to read this in. I'm going to stop the server. Let's restart it. I'm going to go ahead and copy this prompt out. Let's refresh. Oh, look at this. It created a full HTML page. And, it just kind of hallucinated one. It didn't actually have the HTML content. I made the decision to just do that. Let's go ahead and say, can you please turn this into with a lot of color? Okay. And now that we have these breakpoints, in fact, I'm going to kill the server, restart it, just make sure it will actually trigger those breakpoints. And then let's go ahead and send this in, and we should trigger a breakpoint here. Okay, so we're on a breakpoint. Let's look at our breakpoint, and let's look at, we're going to go ahead and just hit continue and see if we can make it to this next breakpoint. In fact, actually, I'm going to step through it step by step, so I'm just going to hit N. Okay, with open. Okay, so it has existing HTML content in this scope, but I think what's happening is it's exiting this scope, and then we're losing access to this variable. Oh, you know what? My bad. We just didn't actually implement the... I'm pretty sure. Okay, so let's add that variable. Let's click next. Just double check that it has the content. Oh, it does. Okay, cool. So let's hit continue. Let's remove those breakpoints. Let's refresh the page. I'm actually going to kill the program entirely. See, sometimes this is what happens if you use breakpoints. Hit exit. Sometimes the Fast API server. Okay, so we're going to still have this open. Yeah, it does. Okay, so now you have to kill the Fast API server. Okay, that's the process ID. Let's go ahead and kill that. Okay, kill both of those. Cool. Let's go ahead and restart the server now. Let's open up a Chrome, refresh that. Okay, let's go ahead and paste in our prompt again. Hit send. And now you can see it actually formatted the HTML document into the prompt. And now the large language model is going to have the full context that it needs to understand the existing page that we're looking at. And that way it will know and have the full context of, hey, we're going to write an HTML document, like that's our job, is to output a fully formatted HTML document. And it has the user message formatted into the prompt. It has the system prompt, so it knows that it's a chatbot that builds HTML pages. And then it also has the existing HTML content that we pass in. And then let's go ahead and look back at the response here. Okay, so you can see here it responded with the HTML page. It added some emojis. I'm excited. Let's refresh and see what it does. And there you go. Okay, so you can see vibrant HTML showcase. Welcome to our colorful page. And you see it's adding all of this additional thing. It has some broken images, has a code snippet. Has some forms, some kind of fun stuff like that. So essentially what we're just trying to show is that the biggest problem that people have with large language models and building agents is just it's not giving the large language model the right context to keep it grounded, to prevent it from hallucinating and just having errors and being unreliable. And a lot of that just comes down to the plumbing of how you deliver the correct information and context so that the large language model understands what it's actually trying to do. And this is a lot of work. It's a lot of plumbing. There's a lot of you have to write a lot of code to get there. You have to, and you can see how as the complexity of the software and the agent grows, you're going to need a lot of prompts, and you're going to have to start chaining prompts together and keeping it grounded in the right information. You can see if you have 20 different HTML pages in your project, how you'd have to be able to chain all of that together. And also, if you have multiple of these chains, you have one prompt and then it has an output, and you start to chain these kind of agent workflows together. And that's where using Langsmith and LangGraph really starts to come in clutch, because you have a system that you can do prompt engineering very quickly. And in the next video, we're actually going to go over how to set up a tracing project in Langsmith so that you can see the calls as they're running, and you can see so that we're not relying on our fast API logs here, because it starts to get pretty overwhelming when you're trying to debug issues and you have all these different variables that you're putting into the prompts. And that's what we're going to do in the next video. And yeah, I'll see you there.